I'm here with Bill Weiss. He's one of the co-directors and co-writers of The Wrong Door, which is getting a re-release on November 28th. I watched this film yesterday, and I liked it was something different than the usual visual vengeance titles because everyone thinks of like all super horror films or super gory, but this one I liked that it was actually a murder mystery, and I liked
Yeah.
that it was something fresh and different. I like the fact that it was shot on Super 8. It looks so good.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I also noticed the difference between our film, which was kind of like a Hitchcock imitation kind of thing compared to the gore and horror genre. But hey, we're excited and honored to be a part of the group here. So
That's awesome. So my first question is, how did this project come about all these years ago? Where did it all begin?
it all began at film school here in the Twin Cities. I met James Groetsch, and we were taking a film class, and we just well, James came across an article, I think it was an American Cinematographer magazine, about how you can make feature films for very cheap using Super 8. And Super 8 Sound in Burbank, California, was offering these packages that you could you know, purchase all for less than it would cost to rent out stuff, and for like on 16 millimeter. And but we decided that well, let's give this a shot. It seems like it would be a minimal kind of investment, and we'd be able to do it on film, and ultimately no one would be dictating what we can and can't do. So Super 8 seemed to be the way to go.
That's quite interesting. And I like the fact that the story involves the use of sound. I mean, that's something
Yeah.
you don't really get to see in these type of movies. You know, everything's more visual, but I like the fact that this is about a guy who's doing a project using sounds, and he uses that to his advantage throughout the film. Like he learns how to use those skills, even though he's kind of like desperate to get this final project out. But at the same time, he finds himself involved with something he never expected. And when he's, of course, getting accosted by these two thugs, he's like, he's thinking to himself, how can I trap these guys? How can I evade them? And he realizes that's what he can do. He can use the idea of sound. I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's one of our film influences at the time was Brian De Palma's Blowout. And he was like a Hollywood sound effects Foley guy, and he was recording sounds, and blow was it Blowout? Actually, I'm mistaken there. It was called Blowout, and that was uh based on Michelangelo Antonioni's Blow Up, where it's the photographs.
Right.
And did you see what I think I saw in the park with the photos? Well, did I hear what I think I heard that night when I was recording sounds? Well, so that was a big influence in using sound to sort of help feed the imagination. And of course, this is a creative person. It was great that Chris Gore, who you get to see on the materials on this new Blu-ray release, Chris Gore liked how we used sound, and that it was a kind of a filmmaker's film in that sense, because you can appreciate the effort and the influence of like just capturing cool sounds and helping to tell a story that way.
Yeah, it reminds me of those old radio serials in a way, because back then before there was even television, people would listen to the radio, and then they would
Yeah.
hear like the sound effects and all the mysteries and all the adventure stuff. It kind of reminded me of some of that, but seen through the eyes of this one character. And speaking of
Yeah.
which, what was it like working with the cast on this one?
Well, they were great. Of course, this being a peanuts budget kind of no budget film, you just had to rely on people's, you know, um, willingness to partake of something like this. So it was really amazing. People like Matt Femley and Jeff Tatum and L'Oreal Steiner, they were great sports, and put up with us as we were trying to figure out what the heck we were doing. And we shot at night, another challenge for shooting on Super 8 film. But yeah, long nights, and it got cold in the autumn here in the Minnesota, and but they were just really good. And I think if the performances are really good in this. I mean, they're of a stellar quality that at the time, kind of surpassed the look of the film. We were hoping we could compete with some of the bigger films, but now it's great to look back and say, well, this is a great sort of genre, this low budget, extra grainy film, and you can appreciate it just for that. But yeah, the actors were great.
Yeah, they were. I love the fact that Matt wore a Jester costume because it brought something like totally different. Where did that idea come about? Who came up with the idea of him wearing the Jester costume?
Well, we just thought it would be kind of funny, I guess, that he's a singing telegram messenger, and we wanted him to look foolish, I guess. It was kind of a underlayer of humor, in that here he is wearing a brightly colored court jester outfit festooned with bells, and he's sneaking around and running away and he's got the bells jingling the whole time. I don't know. I think Shawn Korby was instrumental in that. And I don't know, we just thought, how does we get somebody to knock on the wrong door and get involved in something he didn't intend to? And I guess singing telegram messenger came up, and then court jester. And we had somebody who volunteered to design that costume. Her name is Robin Keller. And she, again, there's another example of people that went way and above our expectations as to what people would contribute to the film. And the costume was great. I think she has it. It's probably, I haven't spoken to her in years, but it was part of her repertoire of costume designing, I think. So
That's awesome.
great.
And for those who are watching this interview and planning to see a film, we need to mention this, but you, Shawn, and James play the main characters' roommates in this film. So, so I think that's pretty cool that you got to not just do all this stuff behind the scenes, but also get to appear in the film as well. And it's kind of like a little bit of comic relief to the more serious tone of the film. I mean, that must have been something fun to have done.
It was. Well, there are two things about that. One, I can say, well, Hitchcock, who we were kind of wanting to emulate in this, he always made appearances in his films. It's kind of a thing. But also, it's how do you get extras in this film for cheap? And hey, well, there's three of us co-directing it, and why not us play the roommates? So that was fun. Of course, all three of us, at least Shawn and I, look back and go, oh boy, that's oh obnoxious.
I'm guessing
it's good we're behind the camera.
I guess you'd rather stick behind the camera.
Yeah. I mean, Shawn and I had experience in theater. I think James Groetsch did too. But I learned and I didn't do too badly, but still, like, it's hard to look at myself on film.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of actors who say that. They're like, I can't see myself on film. I feel like uncomfortable, and because I feel like I have to judge myself. So that's one of the excuses, like one of the things I keep hearing. So I totally get that.
That's what Matt Femley said in his interview in the extra materials, that this project, being a Super 8 low budget thing, was kind of his way to get his feet wet in, like, well, do I want to pursue movies? And so I guess it helped, because it kind of gave you that sense of, wow, there I am on film, on the screen. So, well, he ended up, quitting the acting business. So maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know.
So, how long did shooting take on the film? And I know that you were the cinematographer, and you mentioned the night shoots was kind of rough. Were there any other difficulties that you guys faced throughout production? Because I know being a low budget film, there had been a lot of challenges.
Yeah. Well, right from the beginning, we knew we wanted to tell a mystery show or a story. And of course, that would take place at night. But, Super 8 film, your latitude for light exposure is very, very small. So we had to borrow our light kits from film school and do the best we could. Ultimately, though, from a technical standpoint, it was tough to light, but you didn't really have to light the area, or you just had to light, the jester there alone in the night. And so maybe that worked. It took us about 2 months. We shot in like September and October, I remember it started off very warm and it ended up very cold. So, but we shot in the time we expected, a couple of months. or 60 days. And other than that, the cold, it was at night. We did have to get, we were good in that we got permits to shoot in a park in St. Paul on the edge of the city there in the Twin Cities. And so we did have a lot of nighttime cop visitors. Hey, what are you guys doing? And we got to flip out the permit, and they were generally pretty nice about it. So that, and when strangers would come up and say, what are you guys doing? We'd say, we're fishing a bass fishing commercial. And that was our joke.
I think I remember once, I think someone told me they shot a horror movie in like the middle of the field, and they had to do like a dismembered body, and the people joggers ran by, and they thought like someone actually died, and the police showing up.
Oh my gosh.
I think that was actually another visual vengeance title. If now I think about it, I think it was Heartland of Darkness. I think that's what the movie it was. But hearing these stories is kind of like, this is what I live for. I love to hear these like stories about how the movies get made and all this hard work you guys did. And when it finally gets released and then, disappears for so long that people think it's lost. And thanks to visual vengeance. I mean, now now the new generation's getting to see this film. I mean, how did these guys get to you about this film? What was that all about?
I don't know. We had a very small distribution. I think the company was named Mother Video, and they made a bunch of VHS copies back in like early 90s, and mostly on the West Coast, I guess. I guess you could even find it in a Blockbuster at the time. But so there were a number of those hanging around. And just recently, VHS collectors have reached out. Hey, do you have any extra copies? And I literally went and I asked my mom and my dad, do you have that copy of The Wrong Door I gave you years ago? Well, can I have it? Somebody wants to buy it. I ended up not even charging much for it because I was like, really? Somebody wants this? Well, that's cool. But now, and I think in that same sort of way of discovering, Rob Hochschild from Wild Eye Releasing just reached out to us. There were a couple of people that reached out to us, and Rob was, persistent and very friendly, just a great guy to talk to. And so we're extremely grateful, not only for him, but that there is an audience like yourself to not only want to dig out and watch these old films, but the stories behind it, because I like that too. I find myself watching more documentaries about filmmakers these days than actual films. So it's extremely thrilling to be part of that. Like we get to share our story about The Wrong Door, just like Brian De Palma and Alan J. Pakula and other great 70s filmmakers that we were influenced by.
That's spectacular. So after The Wrong Door, what did you guys do? Did you guys end up making more films? What's the outset now? Like, what are you guys doing nowadays?
Yeah, we followed up with another film on Super 8, a screenplay I'd written called Chocolate Covered Cherries, but we had some technical difficulties halfway through where the camera fell over and broke, and so a lot of the footage we shot was blurry, and so that kind of killed that. And so years later, I think James Groetsch and John Schoenbaum, they took the usable footage and made something called oh my gosh, I'm blanking out on it. But they made a kind of in this genre of horror, goofy filmmakers making something, film clods with a K. That's what it was called. I went on in the late 90s. I made a video film called Now Hiring. Hopefully we can convince Rob to help me distribute that. But yeah, we kind of went different ways. Shawn kind of followed music. James makes amazing puppets now, for the industry, that, good stuff. You can even see a sample of his work in the documentary we made for the Wrong Door. And I continued to stay in film, very do-it-yourself, independent. Made another feature-length comedy film, like I said, Now Hiring, and then tried to do a TV show series. Speaking of bass fishing, it was about kind of an aging fishing show guy who tries to keep his show alive. That nothing ever went because I never could find the sponsorship or the distribution at the time. So nobody ever told me to just wait, be patient 20, 30 years. Maybe somebody will come and watch these. But but I've continued to do other documentary stuff too. So I guess, yeah, I'm still doing it. I'm still a filmmaker, very independent. Nobody knows me, but that's okay. I guess that's the way I liked
I
it all
feel
along.
I have a feeling they're going to know you after that movie gets re-released for sure. They're going to probably ask who is Bill Weiss. I'm like, he's one of the creators of The Wrong Door, and you definitely need to check
Yeah,
out this movie. You know?
that's awesome. That's awesome.
So, The Wrong Door is coming out on November 28th, exclusively on Blu-ray from Visual Vengeance. If you
Yeah,
want something different from their usual repertoire, something a great murder mystery in the style of De Palma and Hitchcock, you definitely want to see this one, especially for the fact that it's shot on Super 8. I mean,
yeah.
that's bound to please some viewers out there, definitely.
Grainy is good.
Yeah,
We like grain. It's fun. It's wow. How somebody did this, and a lot of people did, but
yeah.
I
Old school is the way to go nowadays. I'm hoping
yeah.
everyone does get to check it out. And Bill, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about it.
Oh my gosh, a pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate. I'm honored to be interviewed. Thank you so much.
No problem. You all take care and have a good day.
Okay.
Right.